Hello fellow aviators, my name's Matt Farrell and I'm the Flying Salesman. Welcome back to the cockpit of the 210. I'm getting ready to blast off to do some sales calls in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and one of the things that you guys have been interested in is my pre-flight routine and how I get ready and flight plan for this trip or any of my trips. So before I pulled the airplane out, I wanted to take this opportunity to fire up the iPad. We're sitting in the airplane, still sitting in the hangar, but I wanted to kind of show you what I do to get ready to go on this flight. My first stop for this trip is Denton, Texas. We're going up to the Denton airport to see some customers up there. And so what I do is I go into ForeFlight, and the very first thing I do is I put in my departure airport, which we're here at my home airport, Shreveport Downtown, going to Denton, Texas, KDTO. I've been in there a number of times, so I know the identifier. And so that's the very first thing that I do. I establish a course line. Now, if I wasn't doing this for YouTube, I would file direct and I would take the arrival that I was given. And the reason why I do that is because I have never been given the same routing twice to any airport in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or in the Houston area. So I've just shortcut my process and put in direct, and then I take what ATC gives me as far as an arrival. Same thing coming back out. For the sake of YouTube, I'm going to use some of the tools in ForeFlight. We're going to flight plan an arrival into Denton. We're going to file that flight plan as we have constructed it in ForeFlight, and then we're going to fire up the airplane, get our clearance, and see what we actually get. So if we go to the flight plan tab, over here on the right hand side, it gives us routes, and that is recently filed and assigned routes. So you see they have the Dodge 6 arrival that has been cleared 2 times in the last month. Over a month ago, at 90 different times at 9,000 feet, they've given the REAK 3, and if you touch that, it'll show you the routing. So that takes you pretty far south of the Dallas Metroplex. The Sassy 7, that was been cleared 1 time. That's more direct. I like that one better than the REAK 3. Dodge 6 with snow, that takes you pretty far south. And it's interesting because these are not the arrivals that I was given the last time that I went in there. I'm doing this real time, so I haven't rehearsed this or anything like this, so I'm looking at all my options. We're gonna go with the one that's been cleared 90 times, VW to Dodge the REAK 3. Even though that's out of our way, we're going to take that one. We're going to get that one. If that happens to be the one, it's going to take us right over DFW, so we'll get some good shots at DFW. So for the sake of YouTube, we're going to go with the most popular routing that ForeFlight has, which is VW intersection, Dodge, and then REAK 3 arrival into Denton. So I'm going to hit select route. And what we need to do then is we need to go to send to flights. That sends it to our flight page. It builds everything in there. Today, for an altitude, that's the first thing I select. We're going west, so we'll be at an even altitude. We want it to be kind of cool today. So looks like 8,000 feet is probably going to be a good compromise for altitudes going over. So at that point in time, I can proceed to file. And our departure is going to be in the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. So that's 10:05, it's 9:55 now. Let's make that 10:10. And that should give us enough time. The only other thing I need to put in is fuel on board. 4 hours and 30 minutes fuel is what we have. We've got a full load. Close that, 4 hours, 30 minutes, and hit file. All right, so we've got our flight plan filed. We use the most popular expected route in ForeFlight, which has been cleared over 90 times. And it says the expected route, and that's what it was acknowledged. So we hit acknowledge and we hit update our plan. The next thing we have to do is we have to get our briefing. So we hit the briefing tab and let it generate the flight briefing, the pre-flight briefing, so that we can be able to check for our NOTAMs, check our weather, check for any obstacles or anything that's going to impact our flight into Dallas. Temporary flight restriction. This is George Bush's house. It's been there for years and years and years. So very familiar with it. So that's the first thing that pops up. Closed and unsafe NOTAMs. They're going to tell us that runway 1432 is closed here at Shreveport. And then also Denton, they have 18 left and 36 right. the south 971 feet is closed, so the declared distance available is 5,301. That's not a problem for the Cessna 210 today. Convective SIGMAT, looks like there's a convective SIGMAT south of our route. Gonna have to look out for some of those pop-up thunderstorms, especially this afternoon coming back in. Another air mat for icing along our route. Just to show you, that is base 15,000, tops 26,000. So we're not getting up to 15,000 feet, so that's not going to be an issue. There is a high turbulence, an air mat for high turbulence, excuse me, during our time, and that's all in that same area. Going to be from bases 28,000 to 41,000. Tells me there is a little bit of instability in the air, and something just to be aware of. We're going to be at 8,000 feet. It's not something that is anywhere close to that 28,000 foot mark, but it could be some bumps along the way. It is a clear blue sky today, and if you've watched some of my recent videos, you know that it can be rather turbulent on days like today. If you look back at my last video with the clear air turbulence, you noticed, or you can tell, that that bump that we hit came out of nowhere. I was in a descent and hit a really big bump, hit my head on the cabin of the cockpit, and really got my attention. So you never know when it's going to happen. The next thing is they give you an overall look at the synopsis. If you look at the diagram, they're showing the outflow boundary where that weather is in central Texas. So again, as the afternoon wears on and there's afternoon heating, we need to be aware of that and pay attention to that. The METARs, it shows you the METARs along the route. It's all green, so that's good, all the way into downtown, or correction, Denton. PIREPs, so in Temple, Texas, a PA46 was overcast, turbulence light, and they were IMC. A little bit of rain, it says. That was at 1413, but it doesn't say what the overcast conditions were. So yeah, down there in the Temple area, it was broken 800. Up in the Dallas area, actually it's few at 4,500, scattered 2,500. So all that weather is south of the Dallas Metroplex. When it gets to these charts, the surface wind charts, I don't pay a lot of attention to these, especially on a day like today. I'm expecting everything to be south. I will highlight that one because that gives you your thunderstorms down there in central Texas. But if you look, we're coming out of Shreveport, going due west to the Dallas Metroplex, and I don't expect to have any of this weather moving this direction. So we can go back to the little bit later prog chart, or surface winds precipitation chart, zoom into that, and you can see it's moving kind of south and east away from where we're going to be flying in the Dallas Metroplex. So just these charts can give you an inclination of what the weather is, what it's going to be doing, and then overall you need to understand kind of what's going on with the area that you're in. Being an aviation guy, I've watched the weather, the 5 o'clock weather, ever since I started flying. So once you start paying attention to these systems and how they're moving and where they're moving to, you kind of get a sense of where things are going to be and where you're going to be and how you're going to navigate around them, or how they're not going to impact you. This one in particular, like I said, it's going to be south of my route of flight, it's going to stay south of my route of flight, and it's going to be moving south and southeast. If that changes along the way, then we'll just improvise and we'll make a change to our plan and do something different. It's not unheard of for me to have to blast out of a destination and go due north, the completely opposite direction of where I want to go, and come around the backside or do something different, or maybe just spend the night. So if that happens along the way, I'll share that with you and we'll talk about it. But I really expect everything to be pretty straightforward. I think it's going to be pretty hot on the way home, might have some buildups that we're going to navigate, but I don't expect to be any weather that's going to prevent me from reaching my destination. The next is the terminal area forecast for everywhere along the route of flight. If you look at this, everything is green except for that weather down in Waco. Even at noon, they're saying scattered 3,500, broken 5,000. So I don't expect any issues there. And everything is in the green. They're scattered 4,000, broken 25,000. The winds are light, 120 at 7. So expecting it to be a pretty good day to fly. So this gives you the winds aloft chart for the altitude that you filed. The page that I like is I like the winds aloft table, because that gives me at a glance what the winds are doing just above and just below my altitude. I have mine set only altitudes within 4,000 feet. So I'm at 8,000 feet filed, 4,000 feet is the lowest, 12,000 is the highest, and looks like really calm winds. It's going to be kind of easterly from about 100 to 112 degrees, but really light at 3 knots. So we'll compare that to what the Aspen tells us in the airplane as we're flying over, and see how accurate they are in their forecast. So the next one is your departure NOTAMs. That's really important to take a look at. Shreveport Downtown has a lot of tower NOTAMs. These are all familiar to me. I fly in and out of here all the time, so I'm aware of those. And then of course the runway 1432 is closed because they're resurfacing the runway and the closed taxiways associated with it. We do have a notices to airmen about deer being in the vicinity of the airport. Because of the runway that we're using is not used as often, deer like to hang out there on the departure end of runway 5, and that has caused an issue for some aircraft here recently. So that's why that NOTAM's in there. To Denton Airport, we look at the obstruction within the 10 nautical miles. The things I like to look here is I look at how high above the ground they are. I don't plan on doing any crop dusting. Here's one that is 908 feet above the ground, that's within 10 nautical miles. So that's something to be aware of. It's an obstruction tower light outage, 2.7 east southeast of Tango 58. So we'll need to be aware of that. Another tower light outage, 1,348 feet. Another one 1,657 feet. That's within 8.7 nautical miles north-northeast of 6 X-ray 8 and 2.0 east southeast of 6 X-ray 8. So what I'll do for that is I'll come over here to the map, and it's within 10 nautical miles. Yeah, these are all well outside of the terminal area for Denton. So just checking these private airports, checking where these towers are, that's nothing that I need to be concerned about, because I don't plan on doing any crop dusting, being down that low, doing flight training where I would be in that vicinity of the airport, or excuse me, in the vicinity of those airports or those towers. So I'm in good shape. Runway NOTAMs, we discussed that there is construction adjacent to the edge, men and equipment on Alpha 5. Taxiway NOTAMs, taxiway Alpha 5 between runway 18 and 36 right, and taxiway Alpha closed, and Alpha 6 closed, work in progress. Look at the FDC NOTAMs. The first one is for standard instrument departures, Lubbock transition, Texoma 5, the Ardmore transition, College Station. We will not be doing those. So there is a NOTAM for the GPS runway 36 right is not available. So that's good to know. So if we were going in there, instruments landing to the north, that 36 right GPS would not be available. And then the Likes 3 RNAV star minimum obstacle clearance between Best and Hurlip is changed to 3,100. So coming in, if we are assigned the Likes 3 star, we'll need to pay attention to that 3,100 minimum obstruction clearance altitude. So here's the Dodge Star, only available for aircraft with RNAV equipment, so we are good there. And then the Truck 2, again, the minimum obstruction clearance between Blico and Truck has changed to 2,200, and the Herbs 1 Star has changed to 2,600 between Potsy and Burroughs. So if we get our clearance and they assign us one of these stars, we'll need to come back to this page and make a note of the minimum obstruction clearance for these stars going into that airport. Again, that's something we need to brief it now so that we know how to react to it when we get our clearance from ATC in just a few minutes. That takes me through my flight plan for how we're going to get there. That takes me care of my weather briefing and my NOTAMs for the route of flight and my destination airport. At this point in time, I will go back. It says one new message, probably going to tell me there is a NOTAM for UAS operating area around Louisville and Flower Mound. So we will keep an eye out and be aware of that. Surface to 1,100 feet and surface to 400 feet. So we're not going to be down that low at that point in time. So that's not something that's going to affect us. Back here, at this point, I go back to my maps and I hit this little pack button. And that makes sure that all of my databases and everything is up to date. So I'll go ahead and hit pack, and we will let that download. I'm going to get the airplane pulled out. We're going to get it fired up, and then we're going to see what the clearance is that they're going to give us for our actual arrival into the Denton airport. So y'all give me just a second. I'll get everything fired up and we'll go from there. So just 3, 2, 1. I'll be right back with you. And just like that, we're back in the cockpit of the 210. Got the big fan running on the front, help keep me cool. Getting everything set up here in the cockpit, ready to go. We need to grab our ATIS here at downtown, so I'll turn that on now.
Shreveport Downtown Airport, Shreveport, Louisiana. Automated weather observation 1522 Zulu. Wind 100 at 04. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 26 Celsius. Dew point 16 Celsius. Altimeter 3003. Remarks. Density altitude 1,400.
I always write that information down on a day like today. 3003, the altimeter setting, that's really the main thing that's remarkable about the numbers that we have. We're going to have a little bit of a crosswind, but it's only at 4 or 5 knots, so that's not a big deal. But that temperature dew point spread, that's something really important to pay attention to, especially in the wintertime on cooler days when it's overcast. As that temperature dew point starts to get closer together, that's when the clouds are going to get lower to the ground. That's when you're going to have a potential for icing. So those are good numbers to pay attention to, even though today is not a day where they come into play. It's something to write down, and it's a good habit to get into so that we're thinking about those things and we're paying attention to. What we're going to get into now with this time of year is that density altitude. Make sure that we're not getting into a situation where we're going to have degraded performance, and it's going to affect our ability to take off or land in the 210. Not a problem down here at sea level. I do some mountain flying from time to time, and it can come into play there. So something that I like to keep in mind and keep written down. So I've got the numbers. It's time to reach out to ground control and get our clearance, and we'll see what they're going to give us. I've got Denton pulled up on the airports page on ForeFlight, so we'll be able to take a look at that and make any adjustments. So the flight plan page is blank right now because I'm awaiting the routing that I'm going to get from ground control for my clearance going into Denton, Texas. We are going to use the acronym CRAFT, and I will put that on the screen as this comes in. It's going to be our clearance, it's going to be our routing, our altitude, our frequency, and our transponder code. So use that acronym as you write things down, and I'll show you my shorthand off to the other side of that after I write it out, CRAFT, how I shorthand the way I write it down. Let's go ahead and give them a call. Let's see what we get. Downtown Ground Centurion 6048 November on taxiway golf with the numbers looking for IFR to Denton, Texas.
Centurion 6048 November, downtown ground. You're cleared to the Denton Airport as filed. Maintain 2,000. Expect 8,010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 119.9er. Squawk 5225.
All right, 604 November's cleared to the Denton Airport as filed. Climb maintain 2,000. Expect 8,010 minutes. 119.9 and 5225 for 604 November.
Centurion 48 November, read back correct. Runway 5, taxi via Golf November Echo, cross runway 14, altimeter's 3003, wind 080 at 4.
All right, 4 November, receive that taxi clearance. I'd like to hold tight and get that input into the GPS, and I'll call you back for taxi.
Centurion 48 November, roger.
There is no need in putting all that information in on the taxi. Let's go ahead and get that put in, and then we'll do our taxi. We're going to put in our destination airport, KDTO, hit enter. Now I'm going to back out of this and go to procedure. This is on the GTN 750, if you're now don't recognize what I'm working with here. So we're going to do the arrival. We're going to go to the arrival section, and we're going to pick this arrival. The RICO 3 is what we have. And the transition is going to be VW or Dodge. All right, so on our transition is not showing up with the way that they have it loaded into ForeFlight. So what we've got to do is we got to go to airports. We've got to go to the arrivals. Now we're going to go to the RICO 3. And the way we have this in here is there's the Pudgy intersection, which we're familiar with that. We've done Pudgy before. So if I load Pudgy, that's going to load my transition. Or excuse me, the Pudgy transition is going to load the entire arrival. So now all my waypoints are in there. I could load that by hand. I could go in and I could type in Dodge and I could tuck in Rico and I could do it all by hand. But by finding the right transition ahead of that Dodge intersection, I'm able to have it all loaded into my flight plan for me. So we're going to go to the Pudgy transition. We're going to load arrival. And then the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to go to VDub, because that's what we assigned as our initial fix was VDub. So we're skipping Pudgy and going to VDub. Highlight that, hit direct to, and activate. So that gives me direct Pudgy, but that does not preclude the takeoff instructions that I'm going to get on takeoff. So they're probably going to assign me runway heading or an initial heading or something to that effect, and we have to maintain that until they tell us cleared on course or cleared direct VDub or something to that effect. But if we go back to the flight plan, now we've got to Pudgy, to VDub, to Dodge, the Rico 3, and all those waypoints match up to the flight plan that we filed. The other thing that we need to go look at is we need to look at the Pudgy intersection, Pudgy Rico 3, and it tells us from Dodge we go to Rico, and then on a track to 281 we go to Sway, and then on 265 to Scops, and then 265 we expect radar vectors on a heading of 265. We'll probably get radar vectors ahead of that, but if we don't, we're going to fly each one of those waypoints just like the arrival says, and then we're going to depart Scops on a heading of 265 and just fly that heading, waiting for them to give us our radar vectors into Denton. So that's the way that arrival works. Gets everybody synced up and lined up and headed in the right direction. I'm going to back out of that. I'm going to go to my map. I put the bottom GPS on my nav needle, the number 1 nav screen. For now, that'll eventually get changed over to nearest airports. I like to fly with the nearest airports on there and be able to know in the event of emergency what the closest airport is for me. We're going to climb, maintain 2,000, set my altitude bug for 2,000, 119.9, that frequency is set, and 5225 on the transponder. So cleared as filed, I've got that set into the radios. My routing is as was filed. The 2,000, expect 8,010 minutes. That is in the box, 119.95225. We are ready to go.
Downtown ground 604, November taxiway golf ready for that taxi.
Insurance 48 November, Roger, runway 5, taxi at Golf, November, Echo, cross runway 14 at Echo. Altimeter is 3003, winds 080 at 5.
3003, taxi runway 5, Golf, November, Echo, clear across 14 for 604 November.
I always make sure I emphasize that clear across 14. That way I tell them that I am expecting to be cleared, and it's just kind of a CYA on my part to make sure everybody knows and understands that I'm going across that one way, and that's the way I read it back. So just a little bit of emphasis goes a long way to be able to keep everybody on the same page. I hope you guys don't find the beginning of this video too dry, but it's something that I don't see covered very often, and it's some questions that I've gotten in the comments. So I really appreciate the engagement. I appreciate you guys asking questions, and we'll keep this content coming. If this is something y'all are interested in on these little bitty details, some of the things that I kind of take for granted, then we will keep doing these in detail videos for you and give you guys a better look. I know some of you are student pilots and you are trying to learn and always get better with your radio communications and how we do STIDs and stars and approaches and that sort of thing. So I will keep getting this stuff on video and producing this content for you, because it really does help me be a better pilot, and hopefully you can learn something as well. If you saw the previous video, I did some flights. I really wasn't happy with my flying. I got behind the airplane on an approach into Lufkin and was a little high, a little fast. I was able to make it work. I was comfortable, but I recognized that, hey, I didn't do this right. And so it makes me keep my head in the game and makes me be a better pilot, because you guys hold me accountable. So if you see something that I'm not doing right, if you see something you want me to change, feel free to reach out and shoot me a message. I know some of you guys have given me some comments about not using a checklist. I do use a checklist. I just don't always capture it on video because me reading a checklist or doing a run-up checklist or something like that is, you know, you've seen me do it dozens of times, and I don't do it every time. I edit that out a lot of times. And we're going to do that on this video. I'm not going to film the run-up because I think the important part of this video is the pre-flight briefing, the arrival, and the flight into Denton. So when I edit this video, it's going to be edited for that content and not for the general operation of the airplane. I will continue to call out airspeeds and give you guys the parameters, the performance parameters of the airplane. I know everybody likes to know and understand how the 210 flies and the power settings and how I operate it. So I'll speak to that as we're in each phase of flight. But some of the mundane details of checklists and that sort of thing, although they're very important, I'll edit that out for the sake of time. This is going to be a pretty long video as it is. Just the intro and the departure, I've probably got 30 minutes worth of video recorded already, so that's going to have to be condensed down and edited for time just to keep things moving along. So we're going to taxi out here. We're going to get the checklist, the pre-flight checklist, the run-up checklist complete, and then get our clearance for takeoff, and we'll blast off out of here. So you guys just give me just a second, and we'll get this party started. All right, we got our run-up complete. I've got my tower frequency set. I've got my departure frequency set. Get this set on runway heading, which that'll probably change. And then got my 2000 set. Everything looks good. Downtown Tower Centurion 604 November is ready to go runway 5 at Delta.
Centurion 604 November, Downtown Tower, fly runway heading, runway 5, cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 5, runway heading for 604 at November. All right, we're going to line up on the center line. Come to a complete stop. 30 inches of manifold pressure. The turbo stabilize. Red line, red line. Positive rate gears coming up. And we're accelerating. A little more right rudder trim in there.
Air 40 November, contact Shreveport departure.
All right, 40 November's going departure. Y'all have a good day. Flaps coming up.
Shreveport departure, Centurion 604 November's off of downtown 600, climbing for 2000.
Centurion 604 November, Shreveport departure, right in. Centurion 48 November, radar contact, mile northeast of the downtown airport, climb maintain 8,000, turn left heading 320, vector for climb.
Left 320 up to 8,000 for 604 in November.
There's my 2000 bug, but we're...
Centurion 48 November, turn left direct V-dub.
Turn left, direct V-dub for 604 in November. Departure 632, 1,700, climbing 4,000.
Set my altitude bug to 8,000.
632, Shreveport departure, radar contact, climb maintain 12,000, and turn right heading direct.
And we're going to turn left direct V-dub.
Climb maintain 12,000, right turn direct fleet, 632.
Direct V-dub. I always find it interesting. I tell you something that's going to happen based on my experience, and case in point, this arrival into Denton, how I've never been given the arrival that I filed, and the day that I make a video to make that point, they give me the arrival that I filed. So, prove me wrong once again. I am hoping they'll give us a shortcut so we don't have to traverse the entire Metroplex. Maybe they'll take us around the north side, give us a change to our route or something to that effect, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens there.
Good morning, Longview approach, Centurion 604, November 5,900, climbing for 8,000.
Centurion 6048 November, Longview approach, East X altimeter 3002.
3002, 48 November.
Dragon 97 traffic off your left wing, about 2 miles, southbound altitude indicates 1,100.
Looking for traffic, Jacket 97.
Okay, we've leveled off to 8,000 feet. I've got my power set, 28 inches of manifold pressure, 2,400 RPM. I've got a course leaning to around 100 pounds per hour. That's given me my cylinder head temperatures right where I kind of like them to be at this point. All right, we've leveled off at 8,000 feet. I've got my power set, 28 inches of manifold pressure, 2,400 RPM, and about 100 pounds per hour for a course leaning. That puts my temperatures right where I like them to be. I like my temperatures to be close to where we're going to settle out and cruise. So that's where that course leaning really gets me close. We're going to let this rock for about 5 minutes or so, let all my temperatures stabilize, and then we'll go through our leaning process at altitude. We are 20 minutes from VDub and an hour and 6 minutes from our destination. Level 8,000 feet. We're expecting a handoff from Longview Approach to Fort Worth Center probably in the next 10 minutes or so. Just going over the Longview Airport now. We've got 188 degrees on our oil temperature, and that's with the cow flaps fully closed. We've got 142 knots indicated, 166 true airspeed, and a ground speed of 167 knots. So that light variable winds is playing out for us at 8,000 feet.
Good morning, Fort Worth Center. Centurion 6048 November's with you, level 8,000.
6048 November, direct dodge.
Direct dodge for 6048 November.
Got a little bit of a shortcut there. Direct dodge, activate.
661 Victor is with you, climbing up to 5.5.
Just a minor change.
Number 661 Victor, Fort Worth Center, roger, maintain VFR, county altimeter 3001.
Maintain VFR 3001, 61 Victor.
One of the things we can do in the spirit of what's next, we can go ahead and go to our frequency page. Go ahead and get our ATIS tuned in. Oh, hit clear. Get our ATIS tuned in. Transfer that to the top. Put the tower in. And now we've got our frequency set for Denton in my number 2 radio. The other thing I like to do is turn this large knob over to the nearest airport and fly with that page on the nearest airport. So that tells me that the nearest airport is 4.3 nautical miles on a 171 heading. So in the event of emergency, I can turn direct to that airport and proceed inbound. If something were to happen right now, I would most likely go direct to the Tyler Airport. It's 5.9 nautical miles away. That is within my gliding distance. And that would be the airport that we would make our approach into in the event of emergency.
Number 6048 November, contact regional approach 125.2.
125.2 for 604 November.
November 892 Alpha Echo to Cynthia, westbound. Type is unknown, they're indicating 1,900.
Okay, we have them on TCAS. Looks like they're turning towards final. We'll keep an eye out, flight check 79.
It almost looks like they're turning into the, you know, are you familiar with Lancaster Airport just to your north on 2 miles? Maybe they're in the Lancaster downwind.
Okay, that makes sense. We'll slow down.
Yeah, flight check 79, they're going to be at your altitude, so I suggest a climb or a break off.
We'll do a 360 here.
Regional approach Centurion 604 November's level 8,000.
November 604 November, regional approach, roger, just on a maintain 6,000.
Down to 6 for 604 November.
Zero Yankee Romeo, signed heading 060, now we go to 040.
040 on the heading, 0 Yankee Romeo.
All right, we got a descent to 6,000.
November 47 uniform.
Pull that power back a little bit.
Turn 10 degrees left.
Gonna put us in the clouds, so we may have to slow down a little bit more.
We're uniform 10 degrees left.
Get the flaps out, we'll see. Depends on how rough it is in these build-ups.
Deviate 10 degrees. 10 to 15 degrees left for cloud below.
7476 Papa, roger. Maintain VFRs and left to right, left and right approved.
Affirm. Left to right approved. That's 6 pop.
All right, so we got to turn to heading at 297. That's going to put us right in those build-ups. I'm going to go ahead and level off here.
Citation.
Lose some of that airspeed.
Mike and Juliet.
Get my flaps out.
Regional approach 135.
It's probably going to be a little rough in there.
3597, 0 Mike Juliet to you.
There, we're down below 150. Go ahead and get 10 degrees of flaps in. That'll slow us down nicely. 500 to go to 6,000.
November 7476 Papa, traffic 2 o'clock, 4 miles northbound. 6,200 indicated, type is unknown.
Okay, traffic, we're looking for it. We'll let you know.
November 600 Yankee Romeo, traffic 1 o'clock, 3 miles, opposite direction, type and altitude unknown, negative transponder.
Roger, we're IMC at the moment, 0 Yankee Romeo.
Roger. 76 Papa, that traffic is still 6,200 indicated. They are approximately a 050.
100 to go, slow in that descent. There are the bumps in the clouds.
No joy at this time.
Go ahead and pull those flaps up. Resume our normal, I say normal cruise speed. I've got power set at 25 inches of manifold pressure.
Approach Southwest 27, 9.3, descending via the Bocker with Juliet.
Southwest 27 regional pressure, requesting which runway?
Left side if it works for you.
Southwest 27, 13 left on request.
Thank you, sir.
November 0 Yankee Romeo, that traffic no factor. Additional traffic, 9 o'clock, 3 miles. They're eastbound, 3,000 for 3,500. The Skyhawk will pass behind you.
Roger, thanks, 0 Yankee Romeo.
November 48 November, contact approach 135.97.
135.97 for 6040 November.
Left 090 will report golf between 978.
Denton Tower
We'd like to set up for the
Bravo 155 Zulu. Wind 100 at 5. Visibility 10. Sky clear below 12,000. Temperature 2. 1. Altimeter 3002. Density altitude 2,200.
Good morning, approach Centurion 604 November is level 6,000. I have Bravo at 10.
604 November approach, what approach do you want?
Request the RNAV GPS to 1 left, 18 left.
48 November, expect the RNAV.
We'll expect the RNAV for November.
All right, we're going to expect the RNAV to GPS 18 left. Approach course is 177. Missed approach.
48 November, descend and maintain 5,000.
Down to 5,000, 604 November.
We're going to climb to 1900, then a climbing right turn to 4000, direct to Greg's and hold. The minimums for this are 842. Go ahead and set my minimums to 840.
0 Mike Juliet, turn right to
Altitude set to 5,000.
0 Mike Juliet.
4 November, fly heading at 290, descend and maintain 4,000.
290 down to 4,000 for 604 November.
500 to go.
4 November, heading 310.
310 for 604 November.
And altitude hold.
Chassis 312, approach on 118.1, good day.
One of the reasons why I chose the RNAV GPS to 18 is to stay in positive control. There is a tremendous amount of flight training that goes on at the Denton Airport. So being under positive control and on an IFR flight plan, I just get that much more assistance with the traffic call-outs. So at this point, we've got my 10 degrees of flaps, I've got 25 inches of manifold pressure, 2,400 RPM level at 4,000 feet, and I've got 126 knots indicated. At this point in time, I could pull the flaps up again and proceed inbound, but I in and out of IMC, certainly if I was solid IMC, let's keep the configuration the same. Let's not increase the complexity of the situation. by doing a lot of configuration changes. The airplane is set, it's happy, it's cruising, so let's maintain what we've got and keep everything simplified for the approach. It's not always about going as fast as you can go. We're established. We're basically set up for our approach. We've got 10 degrees of flaps. All we'll need to do is add in our landing gear, extend it at the final approach fix, and we'll be ready for landing into Denton. We're being vectored now for the RNAV GPS. Go ahead and put that in. RNAV GPS 18 left. Load approach and activate. Back to my map. And if they clear us to one of the initial approach fixes, then we will just change at this point in time to that initial approach fix. But we are on radar vectors at this time. You can see on the iPad there's a long line of aircraft
978, descend and maintain 3,000, join the final track.
line up going into Denton.
3,000.
And that's where being on an IFR flight plan and shooting the instrument approach
From Django inbound.
is going to help us get in that sequence without us getting run over or running over someone else. Open those cow flaps a little bit.
Seek 978.
4 November, right turn heading 350.
350, 604 November.
4 November approach on 118.1.
1181 for 648 November.
Lima, fly heading 110. There is VFR traffic, 10 o'clock, 4 miles southbound, 2600. You're faster than them. Just hold that speed for now.
110, looking for traffic, hold speed 6 Alpha.
6 South Lima, just go ahead and fly in 150 and this is the final approach course.
150 to intercept 6 Alpha.
6 South Lima, about 4.5 final approach fix, 3,000 established, cleared RNAV GPS 16 left.
150, 3,000 personnel, is clear for RNAV 18 left.
And approach Centurion 604 November is level 4,000.
4 November, roger. 6 South Lima, normal speed, tower 119.95.
1995, 6 South Lima, normal speed, good day.
317, 4,000 Greg's. I can hear the ELT, but the squelch has to be off to get it. Understood.
Approach Captain Louis, EPS 2977, 8.5, descend via to victory.
EPS 97, 2977, heavy reach approach, good afternoon, altimeter 29er, 9er.
279, EPS 2977.
Number 48 November, descend maintain 3,000.
Down to 3,000 for 604 November.
That'll get us out of the clouds, but more into the bumps. Go ahead and get that tower tuned in. Once again,
2977, heavy descend and maintain 4,000.
having the airplane configured, I didn't need to make that configuration change for this descent. With these bumps, I would not want to be going faster than 137, 38 knots that I'm doing right now.
Louis Pop 13,000. 2475.
Get your airplane configured well in advance at a comfortable altitude and maintain that configuration for the rest of the flight. I'm sure there are a lot of pilots out there that would tell you, oh, I could have raised the flaps, zoomed in there a lot faster, and done it differently. And that's great. I'm glad that you do it that way, and hope that that's the way you're comfortable and the way you like to operate the airplane. This is the way I operate the airplane. This is the way I fly. About another 50 feet to go. Got 100 feet per minute dialed into that autopilot, just slowing that descent down. And 20 feet to go. And hit that altitude hold button, let it level out.
Heading maintain 3,000.
Runway heading 3,000, left turn this time 070.
We are beamed in. I've got it out there in the distance. Binks is the final approach fix. And we cross Binks at 2,300.
Circle 275, Victor, 2,500 foot over.
So they're going to give us another descent, probably down to around 2,000, 2,500, something like that.
Approach, good afternoon, altimeter 29er, 9er.
29er, 500 Victor.
Number 48 November, flighting of 070.
070, 604 November.
Number 7 Charlie Hotel, just going to maintain 4,000.
Down to 4,000, Charlie Hotel.
So we're starting our inbound leg for the RNAV GPS to 18 left. We briefed the approach. My minimums are 840 feet. Missed approach is straight out climb to 1900, then a climbing right turn to 4,000 direct Gregs and hold. As you can see on the iPad, there's a lot of traffic going into Denton. That's one of the reasons why I chose to do the RNAV approach, just to help me get into sequence.
77, you're about 8 miles from Maury, cross Maury at or above 4,000, cleared ILS, runway 13, right approach.
Block.
American 25, 77, you're 8 miles from Maury, cross Maury at or above 4,000, cleared ILS, runway 13, right approach.
Maury at or above 4,000, cleared ILS 13, right, American 2577.
Number 48 November, flighting of 150, join the local, the final approach course is to maintain 2,500. I show traffic just east of the final approach course, 2,900 northeastbound.
All right, 48 November 150 down to 2,500 and join the inbound course for the RNAV 18 left.
Southwest 1059 approach on 124.3. Have a good day.
24.3, Southwest 1059, have a good one.
I turned you in, 48 November, I just turned you in a little early to get you away from that guy, to get you diverted behind him. You're 4 miles from the final approach fix, maintain 2,500 till established on segment approach, cleared RNAV, runway 18 left approach.
Maintain 2,500 till established, cleared for the RNAV 18 left approach for 604 November, looking for the traffic.
All right, down to 2,500, we're going past that traffic. Is northbound, no factor now.
Charlie Hotel.
Number 48 November, if you want to go, the traffic's no factor, if you want to go 10 back to the left to join, that's approved.
48 November, we'll maintain 150, we'll intercept just fine.
48 November, thank you, sir. Contact Denton Tower 119.95. You have a good day.
48 November's going to tower, grade 80 as well.
Left Alpha 3, contact ground.
Pulling that power back.
November 4 Extra Bravo, left turn eastbound approved.
Left turn east for Extra Bravo.
Denton Tower 604 November is half a mile from Binks, inbound RNAV, GPS 18 left.
604 November, Denton Tower, your phone says the traffic on a half mile final, 18 left, short and little in.
Clear land 18 left for 604 November. Below 140. Had to adjust on the fly there. My GPS was in suspend mode because that heading got me inside the final approach fix. So just had to make a minor adjustment. Kick off the autopilot, get back on course, and now we're descending for that glide slope. 1 mile.
427, 18 right, clear for the option.
Zone blow.
2 mile finals be landing, 18 left.
And glide slope's coming in.
Final runway 18 left.
Traffic, clear track 427.
Clear check 1.
That's where knowing your systems and understanding the situational awareness of what's going on
Check 199.
really helps. All right, gas, undercarriage, mixture, props, seatbelt, shoulder harnesses,
Traffic on runway 18
cow flaps
left.
closed. And I got the traffic on 18 left. Thank you, Gladys.
Denton Tower,
500.
154 is 10 miles to the north with Charlie inbound, full stop.
840 are our minimums.
7754 Denton Airport, a 4 mile final, 18 left.
Traffic,
4 mile
1
final,
o'clock,
18 left,
2
2
miles, 300 feet above.
And we're going to go ahead and get another 10 degrees of flaps. And 100 knots on glide slope, on course. Another notch of flaps. There's minimums. Power's coming out. There's 90 knots, looking for 80 knots. 85 knots. There's 80 knots. Let it fly to the ground. that energy to roll around out. A little bit of a, there we go. You didn't even feel the wheels touch, did you? Go ahead and get that window open.
November 48 November, left turn there at Alpha 4, contact ground 123.95.
All right, left Alpha 4, 123.95 for 40 November.
I see Bravo Alpha hold short.
Welcome to Denton, Texas.
18 left.
That was a great flight. I feel like we all got something out of that. A lot of different things going on.
Bravo Alpha.
18 left via Bravo Alpha 78183.
I feel like we all got something out of that. A lot to learn, a lot going on in that flight. So appreciate you coming along. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm really excited about that. You guys hit that like and subscribe button to help throw me over the top. We're just a few days away from that, and I'd like to see one of you guys be number 1,000. I think that'd be fantastic.